All right, sir.
Yeah.
Hey, Ms. Martin.
Hey, I just want to thank you so much. I'm in Minnesota with my two grandchildren, and I didn't know we were having a meeting. I knew we didn't have any cases, so I really appreciate you, and I want you
Is
to
there
know that.
anything, is there anything besides the agenda that I need to share?
That's it.
All right, thanks.
Um, I say that's it. He has the annual report,
Mhm.
which he emailed it to me just a little bit ago. I
Mhm.
can send it to you, but he can he share from where
He
he
can
is?
share.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll
I can
send it
make
to you.
him, I can send it to me, I can make him a presenter and then he can share it if he wants.
Okay, all
Or I
right.
can if he asks me to.
Okay, well, let me send it to you real quick. Okay, all right.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Evening.
Let's see. I
Hello.
know that Nick is not going to be able to join us, but let's give it a couple of minutes to see if um, member Poole joins.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, this is Mary Carroll. I'm
Oh,
audio only. I'm away from home babysitting. Sorry.
okay. Well, thanks, Mary Carroll. I think, let's see. So all of us are here that can attend. Uh, Nick sent me an email last night saying that he had an unavoidable conflict and would not be able to attend tonight. So we're all here, um, and considering we're here, I don't see any reason to not go ahead and begin, and maybe we can work fairly quickly tonight and plan for a future meeting. So uh, it is 6. I have 2 minutes after 6. And I'll call the June 3rd, 2021 meeting of the Little Rock Police Department City Review Board to order. First, thanks everyone for attending. It's been a while since we've had a meeting, and that's primarily because we haven't had any complaints to consider. In fact, we don't have any pending now, but under the ordinance that established the board, we are obligated to provide an annual report. And so the primary purpose of tonight's meeting will be to discuss the draft report and perhaps any additional revisions or things we want to add. I know that in an email canceling last month's meeting, I mentioned we would probably need to address the election of officers, but Ms. Martin was reviewing the bylaws and noticed that officers are elected at the February meeting. So we do not have to do that tonight, and we'll just worry about officer elections in February of 2022. But I think, so the first thing that we need to address are the minutes from our December 2nd, 2020 meeting. I think Mary Carroll or Ms. Martin had distributed those previously. So, well, are there any questions or revisions to those or any questions about them? We'll take those now.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. If there are no questions, do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I move we approve.
This is Michael. I second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. That, Maria, you and I are the only people that didn't play a part in that. So I guess unless you or I have an objection, and you said you don't have any questions, I guess we can consider those approved by acclamation. So the next item on the agenda is our annual report. And so we circulated a draft annual report earlier this week, and as you saw, it's mostly a factual recitation of what's gone on in the last year. Also added some possible recommendations that we can consider around publicizing the work and maybe, or publicizing the board, and making sure that the reason that we're not receiving any items to review is principally because there are none, rather than people not knowing either about the board or the best manner in which to seek a review. There are some other items that I've personally thought about. One, one of our, after our first and second reviews, especially after the first, and the complaining parties indicating that while they did not disagree with our conclusion that the actions of the police department were consistent with policy, they had hoped that we would have focused more on the policy itself and whether whether police department policy was reasonable and acceptable. And I don't think any of us perceive that by reading the complaint. And so, one thing that I've been wondering and thinking about is whether we ought to establish a procedure by which complaining parties can at least make an oral statement or an oral description of their complaint and their requested relief at one of our meetings. Now, our reviews would certainly be limited to the investigation files that we receive, but perhaps an oral or an opportunity for an oral presentation would make sure we're reviewing exactly the items that the complaining party is asking that we review. Now, that's not in the draft that was circulated, but it's certainly something I'd be interested in hearing everyone's thoughts about, or any other suggestions that we may have that we might want to include.
This is Maria. I think that that's a good idea because it's about the citizens being heard, and there's no better way to do that than give them the opportunity to speak before the Citizens Review Board. So I would agree with that recommendation.
And I'm certainly in agreement with Maria. I mean, it is about the citizens, and we need to give them at least a venue to be heard. And they need to feel welcome to be heard.
And I was gonna say, I agree with that as well. It's one thing in submitting a report and with filing for the case and so forth, but then when you actually have the chance to, as everyone is saying, be heard and state that before, that definitely makes a difference.
Well, I think, we certainly have a majority of the board here now, so we can add that to our report as a recommendation. And I think, it's the practice and process that we will employ. So I don't think we'll need any sort of review or approval, and we can proceed with that going forward, but we can include it in the report as one of the things that we're going to do differently going forward.
And one thing I thought about when I read the report is that it might be advantageous for us as individual members of the board to make ourselves available to civic organizations and possibly religious organizations that are interested in what we're doing? And that might be a way to get the word out if we just do a little 2-minute presentation on what we do and who we are. Just a thought.
I don't disagree. I think, I think the, there are possibly, there are a couple of reasonable explanations as to why we haven't received many requests for review. One is that everything is fine and people don't want any reviews, or two, people don't know that we're here and what we do, and perhaps getting out in the community and making people aware of the presence of the board and the opportunity to have investigations.
And that's my,
Yep.
that was my thought, Derek. I mean, I think it's a positive for the Little Rock Police Department that we haven't received as many requests. So we need to acknowledge the fact that I think they're doing a good job, but at the same time, I do think we need to get out there and let people know we're here and what we do and how we interact with the police department as far as training changes.
Yes, yes.
Because, we started this prior to the social justice movement and things. And I would also like to see if the FBI would come and talk to us as we discussed in our earlier meetings.
No, we can certainly do that. And Mary Carol, that reminds me, on the FBI, one of the items that we have had some trouble with is, I think the FBI is trying to figure out how they can conduct their training in a open format.
I got you.
And so,
Got you.
yeah, but I do think what they have something to offer. We just got to figure out the best way to do it, and still meet our obligations under the Freedom of Information Act.
Got you. But I appreciated your draft of the annual report and agreed with everything in it. I would just maybe add a caveat that we think the police department is doing a good job.
Yeah.
No, Derek, I sent you a minor edit and then a question within the document that I sent back to you.
Yeah, I could not see that, Maria.
Well, the minor edit was with the word with. I think it should be within.
Okay.
Maybe it was on page 2 or 3. And then with the language on page on the first page where it talks about the mission and uses the word legitimacy of the police department. And I just wanted to make sure that that was the language in the ordinance, because If it is, it's fine. But if it's not, then I would probably use another word as opposed to using the word legitimacy.
Okay. I'll confirm that. I thought that was a word that was either in the ordinance or in the bylaws, but I'll make sure and get that right.
And I think the report was fine.
Are there any other uh, comments about the draft report? Now, one thing I will mention is that the report is supposed to be voted on by us, and uh, given that there are some edits that we want to make, I would rather us have a final draft to vote on before we publish it. Um, and so, but it sounds like the edits we're talking about are fairly minor, so maybe we can call a special meeting just for that purpose uh, later this month.
And that'd be fine with me.
And I'm available as well.
Okay.
Available to.
Great. Thanks. One thing I figure I'll ask another possible recommendation. The trainings that we had um, that were provided by either employees of the city or the police department. Given what we're supposed to do you think there would be any benefit in having some folks from outside the city participate in those trainings? I mean, for instance, a defense attorney or um, other members of the public. I'll just throw that out and see what people might think.
My gut reaction would be we need to stick to the mission of the ordinance. If we can do that and stay within the mission, I don't think it would be a bad thing. If we try to go outside the mission, I think we may have issues.
Yeah, I think she makes a valid point there.
But I think the more voices, the more opinions that we bring to the table, the better we all are. I just don't want to step outside of the mission of what we're supposed to do.
No, fair point.
Yes. I don't know. I'm always one to try to look at them on both ends. So um, I guess just thinking about that, maybe if it's something where as we talked about, kind of educating the public about what we do. Maybe if it's presented and you know if it's some kind of tie-in in that in that type of way. Uh, as an educational type piece or something like that, then maybe it could be accomplished in that way, maybe in that fashion, and that won't kind of put us so far off base.
Okay.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, and Derek, where I thought you were gonna go with that is to say if we needed any follow-up training for any material changes to policies or training that's been implemented since the last time we received training.
Well, that's a thought. I mean, I guess we should, like, I assume beginning in a year or so, as terms expire, we'll have rotating members, and maybe we should suggest as part of the training that that's provided to new members that there be some session on that's available to the rest of the board to covering new policies that may have been adopted in the previous year or so. No, I think that's a good idea.
I think that's a wonderful idea coming from the lady who drew the longest term.
Who did I draw the longest term?
I thought I did.
Oh.
I hope you did.
No,
But I
think
drew a 3-year term.
yeah, mine's is 2 years.
I do want some updated training and education within those 3 years.
Yeah, I'm sure there's been some changes and updates we probably
Yeah.
need to be made aware of.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Mr. Chair, this is Laura Martin, and one of the things that I will ensure that occurs, just as it does with the police officers, is updated. We do in-service training, and policies do change, and those updates are given to all of us. So we do need to ensure that you receive some additional training as it relates to new policies and changes in current policies. So that is something that I will, I duly noted that, and we will begin to work on that. And that'll be a good time to do that, is possibly bring in members of the training team on the times when we don't have cases to review. That way, that kind of alleviates additional time during the day for training for the members of the board.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So thus far, sort of things we've talked about adding to the annual report and recommendations are, again, more outreach, but not only generalized, but specific to members of the board, reaching out to community and faith organizations in the city, just to make them aware of the board and how we operate. We have the suggestion for complaining parties to be allowed an opportunity to make an oral presentation to the board before their complaints are adjudicated. And then we have the wording corrections that board member Smedley offered, and updated training for the members for things like new policies and things. So I think that all sounds good. Are there any other things we'd like to add?
I'm good.
I don't have any more addition.
Well, then what I'll do is we'll take these revisions, update the draft, circulate it to everyone, and maybe schedule a special meeting within the next couple of weeks solely for purposes of finalizing board and voting on it. I think we can get that done here fairly quickly.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And so, Ms. Martin, I feel like I just need to confirm that we do not have any additional things to review. Is that still correct?
That is correct. To the chair, we do not have any additional complaints.
Great. Well, are there any other matters we need to discuss? Not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. I'll take that, and we will accept that motion without objection. We'll adjourn the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Derek.
Thanks, everybody, for jumping on and for reviewing the report. We'll get an updated draft out and find a time for us all to meet again and vote to finalize it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good evening.